I'm going to hold my hands up and admit to complete, unashamed bias in this episode of the North Coast 500 podcast, because if you ask me, where is hands down my favourite part of Scotland, if not the world, I would say Assynt. I'm Pennie Stuart.
And I'm Dan Holland, and I love this part of Scotland too. I'm perhaps even a little bit more biased because slightly to the south of Assynt, for me, is home. But to find out a bit more about the area, we've been joined by Ben Muller from Mackenzie Mountaineering, who are based in Ullapool. Ben, start us off. Just put us on a map geographically. Where is Assynt for people who maybe don't know the area so well?
Yeah, no problem. So Assynt, if you come from Inverness, it's probably an hour and 15-minute drive. You pass Ullapool, and just another 5-10 minutes further north, you will see the first mountains of Assynt, and you're coming into an area which is absolutely fantastic.
So today, Ben, you've brought us to the start of Assynt, but where exactly have you brought us so we can get a view? Yeah,
we just it's a border almost, if you want. We've been just walked briefly to Rhue Lighthouse, which is a very short walk from the car park. And from here, we have already a good view on Ben Coigach, which is pretty much the start of Assynt. And if we go further along the coast, we just get a better and better view onto the Assynt Hills.
So we're down here by the sea, by a lighthouse. There's not many things get better on my bucket list. As well as taking a walk and a talk through this remarkable landscape, I'm going to be snorkelling along its shores.
The most beautiful sight to see under the water there.
And did you see the way the light was coming through?
Of course, it just becomes dappled.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just stunning.
And I'm going to be diving into the story of what makes a Lochinver Larder pie quite so delicious.
Our pies are different. I mean, they're bursting with filling. I mean, it is a ratio of probably 1 part pastry, 3 parts filling.
Plus, we'll be hearing about the extraordinary geology of Assynt.
We have the oldest rocks in Western Europe. We have the oldest sedimentary rocks, the Torridonian there. We have a record of a meteorite impact. We have some of the earliest life forms in terms of cyanobacteria that we have. And those is the life which released the oxygen into the atmosphere to start off with.
All that to come, but Ben, from a hill walking perspective, how much does this area offer you in terms of mountain guiding?
Assynt is very unique. You won't find anything like that in Scotland. So if you take the Central Highlands, they're generally very similar. If you take the south of Ullapool, it's very comparable to what you find in other places in Scotland. But if you go north of Ullapool into Assynt, it's like literally unique. And you have single mountains sticking out of the moorland, and that makes it so interesting to walk on. So you have plenty of opportunities to roam around, sometimes on pass, sometimes without, to just explore this kind of history of stones as well, geology.
I mean, I know from personal experience, Assynt can be pretty wild on the weather front. It's fairly wild today. The wind's up and the sea's boiling away in the background. Is it an area where, because of the weather challenges, you're going to get more from it if we come here with a guide like yourself, do you think?
Yes, I would agree to that, because we know the area fairly well, and because of that, depending on the wind direction, wind speed, obviously rain or no rain, sunshine, we can tailor suit the walk and find shelter sometimes. So if it's a really windy day, we might not go up a mountain, but we go to a limestone cave, the entry of it. Or if it's a really good day, we take obviously one of the best mountains in Ben Coigach or Calmore, or obviously Cugnac. So it's a crown of all probably in the north of Assynt.
Well, one thing you cannot miss when you walk around the North West Highlands is the geology. We've already been talking about it. The geology of this area is so significant and important, it's been designated a UNESCO Global Geopark. I met Pete Harrison from the North West Highlands Geopark at Knockan Crag to find out more about what exactly that means and about the history of these ancient rocks we're standing on. I can see Ben Coigach, I can see Stack Polly, I can see Coolmore, is that Coolbeck?
Coolbeg, yeah. Mm-hmm.
There.
Yep.
Round the corner we've got
Canisp as well, yeah. Sullivan's just over the shoulder
there.
of the hill, yeah.
A bit further on, we've got Quinag as well. So we can see some beautiful mountains, some really well-known mountains in the North West Highlands. There's a loch below us, there's heather, there's peat. That's what I see. But tell me what you see.
Well, I see exactly the same, but I have a layer of interpretation, I suppose, underneath that. But what I see is those mountains. Yes, I see that surface. But I also see an extra dimension of time. The mountains you've just mentioned, the ones in front of us there, are all made of a rock called Torridonian sandstone, which, as the name suggests, has its type area in Torridon, and it's mostly sands and pebbles and a little bit of mud and so on. Underneath that is a layer of a really ancient rock, what's called a Louisian gneiss, and that's actually the oldest rock we've got here in Western Europe. Now, we can't actually see any here from Knockan, where we are at the moment, but they're down in the valley between Culbeg and Culmore towards Stack Polly, and where that valley is eroded out, it cuts down onto the Louisian gneiss. In some places you can see the horizontal ledges of the Torridonian. So this hill on just to the right of Stack Polly, you can see comes down in a series of ledges. So that's Torridonian sandstone, and almost horizontal ledges.
You can see them quite clearly up at the top, can't you?
You can.
Is that the layers you're talking about?
Yes,
There's about 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah. And actually, with a little bit of snow on them sometimes, it's even clearer because it'll just pick out the ledges for you when it's doing that. But those are all Torridonian. And Culmore on our right here is also horizontally bedded Torridonian. But there is actually a layer of a younger rock sloping up, and actually it just clips the left and the right hand peaks of Culmore. And that's referred to as a quartzite, a Cambrian quartzite. It's a really hard white rock, and you see it on a number of the mountain tops around here. At its highest, the mountains around here were of the same sort of scale as the Himalayas. So you're talking probably 10 times higher than they are now. Now, there's been a lot of erosion since then. I mean, it's been 400 million years of erosion, and then the ice in the last 2 million years. So, yeah, a huge quantity of rock has now gone.
It's absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Tell me, what is the North West Highlands Geopark, and what is it that you do?
Well, the Geopark was really set up initially as a sort of partnership between a number of the agencies, including Highland Council, the British Geological Survey, Visit Scotland, these sorts of people. But it's now been taken over very much more by the community, so it's very much a bottom-up organisation. Geoparks come from the people. And what it's about celebrating our geology and our landscape in a very positive way and in an educational way, but it's also using it hopefully to help stimulate a little bit of economic development, sustainable economic development as well. So it has lots of branches to it, but those are probably the two main branches to the Geopark.
Why is there a geopark here in the North West Highlands on this part of the North Coast 500?
Yeah. Well, it is a very unique landscape, basically. It's a world-class landscape, and some of the rocks I started to tell you about there are unique to this part of the world. And it's a very old part of the storyline. So, as I say, we have the oldest rocks in Western Europe. We have the oldest sedimentary rocks, the Torridonian there. We have a record of a meteorite impact. We have some of the earliest life forms in terms of cyanobacteria that we have, and those is the life which released the oxygen into the atmosphere to start off with. And it's also a place where the controversies behind mountain building and the theories behind mountain building were discussed and developed.
We're standing at Knockan Crag, the National Nature Reserve, which is kind of I guess it's the jewel in the crown of the geopark in some respects, isn't it? It's often very busy. But this isn't the only part of the geopark where you're going to get information about the geology here, about some of the rock trails. Tell me about how you're spreading information for visitors around the rest of the whole of the geopark, because it runs from Loch Erebel up near Durness to Ullapool in the south here.
Yeah. The site here is owned by NatureScot and it's operated by NatureScot, and they developed a trail here which is an open trail, an unmanned trail, but it means that people can access it at any time basically, and there are people here walking around the whole of the year. They also put in what's referred to as a rock route, so there are 14 interpretation panels from Ullapool in the south right up to Lochinver in the north, and each of those 14 interpretation panels tell you a little bit about that landscape storyline that I was talking about. We also have a centre at Unapool near Kailisku there, which is open during the season. It has a free exhibition there, has a shop and a cafe as well, but it has a free exhibition there where we're trying to pass on that storyline to visitors.
Tell me a bit more about the pebble routes, Pete, because they're aimed at directly getting people away from the main road, aren't they? Explore more of the geopark.
They are. I mean, what we would certainly like to do in the geopark is get people to stay longer and to look and to understand the landscape a little bit. So what the pebble routes do, there are 6 of them in the pack, and it takes people off the North Coast 500 into those smaller communities basically, so they can see a little bit of the geology and they can find out something about those communities.
As the geologist for the geopark, you know the place intrinsically. You look at it in that 4th dimension as well. Where's your favourite place? Where's the place that really fascinates you?
Where fascinating? I think probably Lochinver actually, which is where our centre is, which is called the Rockstop. And looking up Lochinver, you can see the Moyne thrust crossing the stack of Glencool, and there are other thrust faults lower down. It's a huge glaciated valley, so it is really very awe-inspiring there, and it's a wonderful place to stop and have a cup of coffee and look up there.
And just lastly, just remind us of the Geopark's website again.
Yes, it's www.nwhgeopark.com, and there's lots of information on there. We run courses as well, so have a look at it and see if there's anything there that interests you. Yeah.
Pete, thank you so much. I'm never going to look at this bit of the landscape again in the same way.
You've only just started the journey.
Dan was with Pete Harrison of the North West Geopark. I can't get over the idea that this place used to be 10 times higher.
It's
I
massive.
can't get my head around that
Just
at all.
massive. And the thing I struggle to get my head around is the timescales involved. You know, we're standing on things that are some of the oldest rock on the planet, potentially. It's incredible. This is the North Coast 500 podcast. For more info, just head to northcoast500.com. In this episode, we're with Ben Muller from Mackenzie Mountaineering. Ben, I found that knowing more about the geology of this landscape gives me kind of an added experience. It gives me an extra layer of appreciation. Do you find that? And when you guide people through these hills, do they get the same experience?
For us, it's very important to connect to the land. So if we walk with someone, we're trying to fill information gaps in a way of right from the start with the geology, but also when people lived there, because Scotland is very connected to the land with the crofters, with the history, and the best to experience is on a walk.
Do you find a personal connection because of that as well?
Yes, absolutely. So I feel very connected to Scotland, and I have days where I'm just walking around and I just feel very settled, very calm, and I think it's because of we are connected to where we walk and the land we live on, and that just sometimes you need to walk over it to feel it.
The geology around here, as we've heard, is pretty awe-inspiring, and it's a place which lots of people have painted and photographed and written about. The famous Scottish poet Norman Cage wrote about Assynt, a man in Assynt he wrote. You've had lots of people come here, you bring people here. I mean, have you any thoughts on what it is about this particular landscape that captures so many people?
It's a difficult one, but I think there's a lot of things coming together. You have the water, you have the mountains, and you have some kind of emptiness, which you don't find anywhere else in Scotland like that. We're missing any trees, of course, up here, because either they got felled or the weather is too harsh that they can grow again or never grow that big. And that has something that is missing as well. And the rocks are so old and open to the ground as well. So you really have that kind of bare ground. And I think all that combined has this appeal where people come back, write about, paint about, all these things you can do actually.
I think for me, it's something to do with that openness you described, but it's the interface between land and sea.
Yeah.
For me here, the sea is so much part of the landscape and the environment in exactly the same way that the hills are. I mean, where we're standing, we look out over Annet Bay, out into the Minch, and on a beautiful sunset, you can see almost all of the Hebrides. You know, I've sat here and I've seen the north end of Lewis and I've seen south of the Clysham on Harris in one panoramic view. And then beyond that, it's the North Atlantic. It's just wild open space that is beautiful for me, I think.
I think for me, it's, although they're not the highest hills around in Scotland by any stretch, it's something to do with going up rather than necessarily looking at the seaside of it. It's that business of being up on top of Sylvan or Stackpolly or whichever one you've gone up, and you can see the Lochans kind of scattered beneath you as if someone's broken glass and kind of thrown it down. And just something about it makes me stop and think, you know what, this has been here forever. It's going to be here forever. Your problems really aren't that big.
Yeah.
And it feels like I recalibrate.
Absolutely.
And I've always felt that here more than anywhere else.
You're
for
just
some
a
reason.
little moment in that sort of
You're a
passage
blink.
of it all passing through, aren't
Yes.
you? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we see that with guests as well. So sometimes we walk south of Allapool with him and then we move north with him on another day, and they're just awestruck, and they just come back and back and back because they've seen it once and they can't get it out of their heads anymore.
Well, for lots of the reasons we've been talking about, the hills in Assynt are legendary for hill walkers. Another part of Assynt, which has become something of a legend, is the award-winning Lochinver Larder pie. I headed to Lochinver to meet the team behind the scenes, busy making pies with passion.
Duncan Cameron, I'm the Hospitality Director at Rose Hospitality, which is the parent company of Lochinver Larder.
Lewis McLeod, and I'm the Chief Pie Maker.
And I'm Corneille van Jaarsveld, and I'm the General Manager at the Larder.
Do you know all of the fillings, Lewis, off by heart?
Probably I could go through them all, yes.
Right, go for it.
So there's venison, steak and ale, pork apple cider, pork chorizo manchego, salmon, chicken ham, chicken leek and mushroom, chicken curry, butternut squash, sweet potato and goat's cheese, cauliflower broccoli and cheese, chestnut, mushroom and red wine. There's a special pie at the moment, there's smoked haddock, there's haggis, neeps and tatties, there's vegetarian haggis, neeps and tatties, I think that's all the savoury ones. And the sweet ones, there's apple blackcurrant, apple, rhubarb strawberry, apricot and peach, chocolate pear and almond, and just now there's a cherry and almond pie. I think that's them all, is it?
That's all of it. Okay, so this is the heart of the business. This is where everything starts from. So you've got a pastry break up here that can do 15 batches of 55 pies within a day. So we can do easily 800 pies a day. So once the pastry break's up and running, it's quite a cloudy room. Obviously the flour going everywhere. It's a flavour that you can almost, there's something that tastes in the air, which you can start tasting that buttery, nice, beautiful pastry which we've got. Yeah, so that's
Yes, you can smell the buttery stuff.
Yeah,
the butteriness.
the butteriness of the room, and we've got a buttery walls to match.
About 36 years ago, Ian and Deborah Stewart, Ian was a steel trader, and I think they were based over in Africa. Came back to Lochinver, where his family still live, what we're led to believe. His mother was here then. And without any catering experience, decided to open a pie shop. And the pies were a lot bigger back then. There was a limited range. There were more sort of family-sized pies. And I think he was really surprised by the success. As it got more successful, the building, we look at old black and white pictures, believe it or not, and you can see the building is getting slowly bigger. Where we're sitting now wasn't here originally. This is where they lived. So they lived and breathed the business for 36 years, and then we acquired the business back in early 2000. So we took over in January 2020. Lockdown happened in March 2020. We had to really think on our feet about how we reopen this business when we couldn't reopen because it was an indoor business. I went on the lookout for a food trailer. and came across the truck that we now trade from exclusively, because we don't have an indoor business, even though we can now. And it's really successful. And last year we sold 172,000 pies. 150 of those were sold over the counter from a riverside pie truck.
What is it about the pies which is so good? I mean, they are legendary. People do come here to eat the pies. Why? What's the secret? Any idea, Lewis? You're busy down there in the kitchen helping to make them.
I think the pastry, it's a different it's short crust pastry, and you don't really see a lot of that type of pastry on pies. I think that's definitely one of them. And I think the filling is a good ingredients. We use all fresh local ingredients.
I think it's for me, the pastry has got a big part to play in it, but I think it's the filling we do, is the ratio of the filling compared to the pie, the quality, the flavors. We try and keep it simple, the simplicity of the menu. We don't use fancy names with our pies, we don't use fancy gadgets to make it. I think it's a traditional aspect of hand crimping the pie, the fillings get made on site. I think it's the freshness of the product that actually stands out for me, but it's a different uniqueness of every pie, because not every pie looks the same, but every pie tastes the same, and that's what makes it quite unique for me.
So here we have pie production going on.
This is the
Chicken leek mushroom. I tell you what, there's no skimping on filling, is there?
There definitely is not, especially Ailey. Ailey's got a tendency to bulk them a bit bigger than what we always would joke about, but yeah, it's more, it's not about quantity over quality, it's about combining both. And if you see the way Ailey's been, just the way she's crimping that pie there, it's a way of years of experience. It's not something you get everywhere. So Ailey shows a lot of our staff how to do it, but just generally the filling which we've got in there is not a skinny pie, as we call it around here. Everything is full to the brim, and the filling 3-to-1, so 1% 1 part pastry, 3 parts filling. It's a thing of beauty.
Yeah, it was interesting when we were at the British Pie Awards last week, of which we won the best Scottish meat pie. We were told that a great pie is 50% filling, 50% pastry, and we were quite surprised at that, because we pride ourselves, we're different, because we're probably 80% filling. And John describes the pastry as a delicate wrap around an a la carte filling. Our pies are different. I mean, they're bursting with filling. I mean, it is a ratio of probably 1 part pastry, 3 parts filling. And some people sort of see our pies and question the price until they have one. And they have the first one, and they're like, that's a meal in itself.
Yeah, it is a meal.
And they keep coming back.
Yeah.
So presumably this is where you're making all the fillings.
Yeah, this is where we make predominantly all the meat fillings, because we can get about 30 kilos at a time. So in the summer we can be making about 120 kilos of steak and ale, 120 kilos of venison a week.
Wow.
And it gets really busy, yeah. So without this we wouldn't be able to do what we can do. This is one of the most important pieces of kit in the kitchen. It cooks for about 4 hours, the steak and ale and the venison, so it builds up flavour.
Do you enjoy this?
I enjoy it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's good, especially when in awards. It's good that your hard work's paying off.
How do you keep it so consistent in terms of the flavour? Are you always having to kind of just keep checking it, tasting it?
Yeah, you do. You have to keep tasting everything. Yeah, I've been making them so long, I know all the recipe off the back of my hand. But yeah, you do. There's a recipe that everyone needs to follow.
Is it a secret recipe?
No, don't have to kill you this time. No.
Favourite pie? If you have to have a favourite child, I'm going to force you all to have a favourite pie. Duncan, you can be on the spot first. Favourite pie?
Chicken and ham.
Chicken and ham. Lewis?
Pork apple cider.
Pork apple and cider.
Yep.
Where's
Connie?
broccoli, cauliflower and cheese.
Oh, that sounds good, doesn't it?
So this is the final product which we do. I can tell you that the pies on the side, pork apple and cider, has been crimped by Monica, because just of the technique she does, where Ailey, she's got a complete different technique. Jackie, Veronica, Stephanie, who's now new with us, everyone's got their own unique way, and I think, as we mentioned earlier, it's that uniqueness of, it's not factory made, everything's made by hand.
It's a destination already, and we want to make it more of a destination. We want a place to be for locals to enjoy as well as tourists. We recognise that the tourists are great during the summer, but we really need the local support during the quieter months. One of the reasons John Snyder, who owns the business, he's been quite blunt when he acquired the business. It's not for financial reward. His target is to see more school children in the local primary school by giving people jobs. We want to develop here with we're going to call it the Boathouse. So it's a really nice looking bar restaurant, cantilever, almost over the river, really striking. It's going to add to that destination feel. That's in addition to redeveloping the larder as well. So we're going to create more jobs there. And secondly, we're recognising that we can't make, pack and distribute enough pies to meet demand. Lochinver Larder is the same size as it was when we took over, but we're doing 3 times the amount of pies. So we've recognised that we're bursting at the seams. We want to do more, so we're planning to open a purpose-built pie production facility just 2 miles up the road on a piece of land that we own already. So it's a sort of 12 to 36 month project.
We're not machines. We make mistakes. But the beauty is our pies, at the end of the day, only the best will go out. The ones that are not suitable, we will eat. But yeah, as you can see, they're just beautiful.
They are beautiful. Well, I suppose I ought to try and choose some to buy. I wonder what Dan's going to like. I think Dan's going to be possibly a venison and cranberry or a pork apple and cider. I'm not sure. But anyway, I shall buy some pies and take them away for a taste test.
Of course you can.
Oh, that sounded good. I love pies. If you can't get up to Lochinver to go and get yourself a pie from the Lochinver Larder, then go and check out piesbypost.co.uk, where you can order them online. And if after hearing that you guys can't wait to get your chops around a pie, you're in luck, because I have a couple here for us to try. We shall get a brew on and get a cup of tea first. Worth mentioning, if you want to find out more about any of the things we're up to in this episode, just head for northcoast500.com. Ben, tell us a bit more about Mackenzie Mountaineering and some of the things that you offer. There's a bit of the guiding and walking as we talked about, but give us a fuller picture.
We're doing this for over 10 years now, and we started to do that all over Scotland, but then when we moved up to Ullapool and kind of the northwest of Scotland, we moved more towards like local stuff and one-day walking adventures. So if you come out on a day with us, we would obviously bring nature close to you, but also the history, geology, and we try to combine it in one great day out. And it's all about fun as well, so we're trying to do a bit of mountain safety, have chats about how it works with mountain rescue, and also prepare you to actually maybe go further afield on your own. So give you a few bits and bobs in your hand to say maybe that walk would be great to do, or that walk afterwards, because it's not all about just being with us all the time, but to prepare you to go further. We can do navigation days to teach them how to navigate with a map and compass, which is in Scotland still essential and a very important safety tool, because obviously the new mapping softwares on the phones are great, but they're actually an extra, like a bonus, and should not always be used, especially when the weather is not great or cold.
And how much are the walks around here and the day trips and guiding that you offer all abilities, and because we've talked about going higher up the hills, some people may want to go low level or a very easy stroll and just learn more about the land they're walking.
Yeah, I mean, we have on the website like a walking list if you want, and we're trying to combine things as well and make easier walks or have easier walks, have kind of middle ground, harder walks, hills, Monroes. I mean, there's, you call it, everything everyone wants to do, we do offer. We also do bespoke stuff, but we're also trying to combine like a bike and walk, as example, where you cycle and walk, because there's some great routes to do that. Also, we have used boats as well, which is great. We have more and more boats in Ullapool and surroundings, which are sometimes really good to use to get to an access of a mountain or an easier walk, and then we drive them back afterwards. And it's all abilities, and we tailor as well. So if we have a request for 10, big family, they don't want a difficult walk, so we do something easy. Rhue Lighthouse is perfect for that. offers us in Knockan Crags, or you have the Trallygill Caves, Bone Caves. There's plenty of opportunities to do easier stuff too.
Well, one of the other joys of this part of the North West Highlands is you can find true wilderness wherever you go, and there's pretty much undiscovered pockets of that to explore all over the place. You just need to open your eyes and look around you. Ewan McLachlan from Assynt Development Trust gave me a time, he gave me a remote location, and told me to bring my dry suit, which is a bit squeaky and still fits. We went on a mission to go snorkelling. All the information I had about this snorkel swim was 3 words. Hydration, Emperor, mainly, and then I had a time, 12 o'clock. And I've driven for about 20 minutes along a single track road. I found a lay-by, and now I'm standing in my dry suit, which is this squeaky rubber sound we can hear. And I found Ewan. Ewan, good to meet you. Thank you for this. This is exciting, but you know, we're going to go snorkelling. I can't see the sea.
Well, we have a little walk ahead of us. It's slightly precarious. This is probably the definition of off the beaten track. But come with me, we'll cross the road, follow the burn, and make our way down to a hidden secret beach that not an awful lot of people know about.
This really is follow the burn. Are we going down here?
Yeah.
It's like a cutting in the rock. It's like a mini Charlemagne gap in the Cairngorms. Just as we're walking down here, Ewan, I can't help but notice we've crossed the burn for the second time, and there's a beautifully round stone with what looks like gear marks in it, cog marks in it.
That'll be part of the old mill.
The mill?
Yeah,
And
we're coming up close. You'll see there's a little building here that was the mill. You know, families lived and worked here. Obviously, they've got the natural flow of the burn from the loch up above. Been able to turn and grind the mill.
Grind their grains,
grind the grain,
grind their
yeah,
flowers.
And all part of the important infrastructure of 19th century Assynt. This is where we'd have got our bread from. It was in use. There was a hearth tax list of 1691 and mentioned the mill there. 1759 there were mentions of 4 mills.
What a spot you've brought me to, Ewan. The tide is in. The wave, there's no wind here. It's you, me, 2 sheep, a beach, 2 snorkels, 2 masks.
Let's do it. It's beautiful. And also you can hear in the background here, there's a waterfall.
There is. That's the burn from the mill, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
It's got quite a drop. I mean, look at the height we've walked down.
There are some wonderful beaches in Assynt. They're big, they're isolated. We have got a tiny little beach in front of us that's maybe 5 metres wide, with the way the tide is at the minute, 15 metres long of golden sand, crystal clear water, terns squawking in the background. I can see why you wanted to bring me snorkelling today, Ewan.
But look at the water. Look how clear it is. You know, you've got an amazing kelp forest in there. You can see the darkness around the edges there of those rocks. The water's incredibly clear. It's very cold, but it's clear. Bring a wetsuit. But the beach is beautiful. You can sit here, while away the hours, watch the sun cross over the ocean, and just drink it all in. This is about peace and quiet and tranquility.
That's a lovely thing about this part of the country, isn't it? We are absolutely blessed with some of the most beautiful marine life, marine flora and fauna in the northwest of Scotland. I think as a diver in, to be honest, the northern hemisphere.
Well, you know yourself the number of dolphins and seals and porpoises that you encounter every time you're in the water. And our waters are alive with these animals, and they're curious.
Yeah.
The seals will come in, they'll take a look at you, and then something else will grab their attention, and off they go. And you're left just to look at the fish and the crabs and what have you. And the kelp is just amazing. The kelp, but that's when you get the light right above and you're floating on the surface or diving down a wee bit. Just the way the kelp forests move here, it's magical. It is really another world. It's exhilarating. I get passionate about it because it's just one of the most beautiful spots I can think of. And I've travelled most of the world, and if this was 10 degrees normal, 10 degrees higher, it would be stowed out. It'd be, it's a tropical beach. There's no two ways about it. Just slightly chillier, but on those days when we do hit 24, 25, there's nowhere like it.
Nowhere like this. Let's go. Enough talking. Let's just take all microphones and headphones off and just leave those on the beach. There's nobody here but us. Right, we'll get zipped up. Right, we're zipped up, suited up, wetsuits, dry suits. And we're going to go in here and just follow around to the right for a wee while, shall we?
Talking about it for a few minutes.
Brilliant. Right. Always love that first bit when you walk into the water and you feel it. Again. Come and join me up here, Ewan. Oh, that was good,
Wasn't it? It's just beautiful.
just
How clear is that one?
the water was so beautifully clear. Some of those kelp forests, the colours, even though we're coming out of winter, when the kelp sort of degrades and the colour changes, you can see it starting to come back to life
It's
already.
vibrant. It's
Yeah.
so important for us. It really is. It's just this amazing source of energy, and it's just the most beautiful sight to see under the water there.
And did you see the way the light was coming through?
Of course, it
the
just
kelp?
becomes dappled.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
just stunning. It really is.
I didn't see anything moving, living.
No.
No crabs.
Well,
no.
it's early in the season.
It's-
Thankfully, the jellyfish aren't here yet, but
Yeah.
they'll be here
They'll be
eventually.
here. I feel really, really privileged that you brought me here to this beach,
You are. There's not
Like-
many people I'll bring here.
because it's a very special place, isn't it?
It's quite beautiful and quite hidden away, tucked away. I mean, it's the kind of place that most people will just fly by. The folk doing the North Coast 500, they've got set destinations, places they must go. And thankfully some of them are slowing down now. They're coming and they're spending longer. Ideally, with the Development Trust, what we want to do is, for a few of those that like it and love it, consider living here. People are working from remote, they're working from home now. There's no reason why people can't come here, build a house, bring their kids up here, live here, and just enjoy the quality of life that's on our doorstep.
What's your role, and what's the overall role of the Trust?
Our goal is to work towards the betterment for life in Assynt for people. We're a community that's under threat. Endless list of problems we have, but we choose to live here and struggle through it and make the most of it, because it is just a beautiful place to live. But a number of things we do, for example, with the rise in traffic and tourism and the use of motorhomes, I feel for a lot of the motorhome folk, because nobody wants to drive about with a full tank all week and nowhere to empty it. So we set up the motorhome waste disposal unit in the community-owned Assynt Leisure Centre, and it's called the Cludgy Project.
Aptly named the Cludgy
Project.
And for those who aren't quite the Cludgy Project, I mean, this is where the community-owned chemical toilet waste disposal in the middle of Lochinver. Anybody passing by can go and use it.
Yep, there's a contactless system going in the next few weeks. The motorhome drums are a-banging. People know it's there. It's been a long time coming. And it saves, those poor folk that, nobody wants to dump their waste at the side of the road and put it out in the peatlands and the moors and what have you. So we've got this motorhome fully operational now, and I would advise anyone in a motorhome or camper van, come and use it.
And there is that saying, isn't there, that where there's muck, there's brass. So, yes, it's a community-run thing, and the more people that use it, but is the return going back into the community?
The income goes to the Assynt Leisure Centre. The Assynt Leisure Centre is owned by the community. We're not funded by Highlands Council or Sport Scotland, so the money goes back into the leisure centre for the facilities, etc. So nobody's making a profit out of this. We're providing a service, and it will it will pay itself back over many, many years, in the fact that people know they can now stop here, which means that they'll be shopping in the local shops, they'll be buying in the gift shops, they'll be visiting the attractions, etc.
And more importantly, they'll be able to go and explore more of Assynt, which is one of the other fundamental arms of the Development Trust, isn't it? To get people to go and explore more of this absolutely beautiful part of North West Scotland.
Well, the Development Trust a couple of years ago took on the running of Discover Assynt, which was a community-operated tourism body. We have a constant presence with people coming, and we advocate that people slow down, that when they come to Lochinver and park up the car, take a walk, go visit Coolag Woods, go up towards Sullivan, up to Lencanis, go around the Inverwoods, or walk over from Barrydarich over to Achmelvich and then along the coastal route. You might possibly pass this hidden little beach if you do that.
But you might not.
Yeah, you've got to be careful. Just don't follow the wrong sheep trail. I tell you, one of the nicest things I've done is taking a stroll along the headland out towards Kilkeen. There's an arch out there that nobody really knows much about, and you've got the strength of the Minch pouring into the waters there. You can walk round to Store, the Old Man of Store. We have our store here as well, which is this column, eroding sea column. People climb it, and the view from there is just spectacular. You're looking all the way up the northwest coast and all the way down towards Reef, and you can see the islands from there. Come year round. The light here, I'm a photographer as well, and the golden hour that we get in the morning, sunrise and sunset through the year is just spectacular. Yeah, it's more than just a couple of nice beaches and a few hills. There's so much to see.
Ewan, it's been wonderful speaking to you. I can't help but want to go back in before we leave here. But we just put this down and
go for it.
Back in.
Maybe spot that seal if it's about.
I was with Ewan McLachlan from the Assynt Development Trust. For more information about the Trust and their local projects, just go to discoverassynt.co.uk or assyntdevelopmenttrust.org.
I thought that sounded absolutely amazing. I could picture that kelp forest and the kind of dappled light going through it.
And it was lovely. It was just the two of us, as you heard, and it was a beautiful day. And honestly, we could have just sat and floated in the water, even without looking under the surface. Just that, feeling the water move us just gently as we slowly drifted around the rocks. It was...
He's an old romantic, isn't he, Ben?
It sounds like it, but I really want to do that.
Have you not done snorkeling?
No, not at all. I've seen the snorkel trail and everything, but I haven't managed to actually do that, and I wouldn't do it on my own as well. I would like to have someone guiding me doing that.
What struck me was that Ewan showed you down a real... it sounded like a true hidden gem, a real discovery. Is that something that you find, Ben, that with the walking as well, that this is a place of discovery, of hidden gems?
Yes, of course. There's loads of routes a lot of people don't know, and take the Postie Pass as example. You don't have to go the whole way, because it can be quite daunting and quite exposed for a lot of people. But even if you just go up a bit and then turn inland, you find loads of small lock-ins where you can spend a whole afternoon on your own, not seeing a soul, and just relax. And yes, you have hidden gems every corner.
What would be your one ultimate?
You realise if you tell us, then everyone's going to go and spoil it by being there.
So give us your number two then.
Number two. It's a difficult question, because we have that a lot with clients asking that exactly the same thing. So what is your best hill? What is your best spot? And it changes. It's kind of depends on my mood. It depends of the time of the year. And there's so many, so sometimes one is more than the other. But most of the time I just love being on mountains with people and show them the beauty of what you can see far and wide, close up around us.
It's a great thing to be able to share, isn't it?
Yes, I love that. That's why I love the job so much, because I like to be alone sometimes, but I like to be with people and just share the passion to them. And something we're really, really passionate about is the land.
I think that's a point about Assynt in this area, and maybe about the whole of the north of Scotland, is that you don't do it in one sitting. You don't come here and think, oh well, I've done Assynt.
No way.
Every time you come back, it is different. Even if you go up the same hill, it feels different. It's different weather. It's a different time of year. Just it's generous in giving you something every single time. There's sort of no limit to how many times you can come back.
Absolutely.
We're going to get out these pies now.
Oh, pies.
Pies.
I love a pie.
It is pie time. While Dan gets the pies out, Ben, remind us where we can get more information about Mackenzie Mountaineering.
You can go on our website. That's probably the easiest way, is www.mackenziemountaineering.com. You find a lot of stuff about the one-day walks, but we also do 3-day walking adventures. We have a Northwest tour as well, where 7 days are based in Ullapool, and every day is a different walk, mostly going to the north and Assynt, of course. But that's the best place, but we're on Instagram as well and Facebook.
Here we go.
We're going to have to share them, but that's...
There's coffee in there.
Assynt's all about
lovely.
sharing.
I take a coffee.
That one's slightly milkier, that one's slightly stronger.
Okay,
Got
takes a stronger one.
apple and blackcurrant, or
Ooh.
my favourite, chocolate, pear and almond.
Oh, very nice.
I thought we'd go sweet. I thought it might be
Sweet
better
is
if
always
we were
good.
out and
Wait,
about. Sweet
wait.
is good. Dan's got the knife.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to sit here and enjoy the view and enjoy our coffee and tea and our pie. I really do hope that we've persuaded you to stop off and spend time in Assynt, because as we've been waxing lyrical, it is an amazing part of the world. I'm going to try this one, pear and chocolate.
Thank you.
Do check out the North Coast 500 website, northcoast500.com, and download the app for more inspiration and information. Not just here in Assynt, but there is information about the whole of the North Coast 500 route. For now, from Ben, from Penn, and from me, catch you next time.
What do you want, that one?
Some of that one.
Yeah.
That smells amazing. That is good.
There's no skimping on filling, is there?
Yeah.
Nope.
And when I love doing Sullivan, early day, coming back down, pie shop in Lochinver.
I can
Perfect.
imagine after a day.
Perfect finish of the day. Could be savoury, it could be sweet, whatever the hard ones.
The North Coast 500 podcast is an adventurous audio limited production for the North Coast 500.